What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today I'm doing a Drytron deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely powerful deck this format that's super fun to be able to play. I've included all sorts of spicy tech cards in this build for you guys, so without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Drytron Alpha Thubin, which is probably the best of all the Drytron cards. This card has an awesome effect that it cannot be normal summoner set. It must be special summon with the effect of a Drytron card, and you can also attribute one of their Drytron monster or a ritual monster from your hand or field to special summon this card from your hand or grave in defense position. Now all of your Drytron monsters share that common effect, which is super cool about those monsters. Then they gain a unique effect when they're special summoned to your side of the field. This one's unique ability is that you can add a ritual monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool effect. We then play 3 copies of Drytron Zeta. Zeta is a definite 3 of the deck, and this card has a really cool effect that when this card is special summoned, you can add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand. We then play 2 copies of Gamma. Gamma is a really good 2 of the deck. I don't feel like you need any more than 2 copies of this card in the build, but it has a great effect that if this card is special summoned, you can also special summon a Drytron monster with 2000 attack from your graveyard, except another copy of this card, which is a great effect to give you 2 monsters on your side of the field so you can make cards like Mu Beta Fafnir. We then play 2 copies of Drytron Delta. Delta is really good because this card actually lets you draw cards, which is a great effect to be able to use, because if this card is special summoned, you get to reveal a ritual monster or ritual spell in your hand, and if you do, draw a card, which is a great effect to be able to use with this card. We then play a single copy of Diviner of the Herald. Diviner of the Herald is one of the best normal summons in the entire deck, and is a great effect that if this card is normally special summoned, you can send a fairy monster from your deck or extract to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's level is increased by the level of that monster's level until the end of the turn, which is a great effect to be able to send cards like your Herald of the Arclight from your extract to the graveyard, or your copy of Elder Emptiness to pop a card on the field or search a ritual monster ritual spell depending on which one you send to the graveyard for certain situations. But this card is just really good in this deck as well, because if this card is tributed, you can actually special summon a level 2 or lower fairy monster from your hand or deck, except another copy of this card, which is just a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of Chojuro of the Trillion Hands. This card is insane and a really insane normal summon for this deck, because it has the ability that if this card is summoned, you can add a ritual monster and a ritual spell from your deck to your hand, which is just a really cool effect to be able to use with this card. And it's insane because this card is a level 6. So this card is going to be able to search out your ritual spell and your ritual monster, basically being a pre-preparation of rites on legs, or in this case, on hands. We then play a single copy of Herald of the Orange Light. Herald of the Orange Light is a great 1-of in this particular build, because this card is a great hand trap that's actually searchable in this build, so this card is really good as a 1-of. We then play a single copy of Artifact Lancia. This card is a really spicy tech card that's actually searchable in this deck, which is really cool, and basically locks down Kashtira matchups, which is really nice, because it makes so cards this turn cannot be banished, which is just really good. This card is insanely powerful right now, and a really good 1-of that I almost consider playing as a 2-of in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Cyber Angel Benton. This card is insane in the deck because it has the ability, if this card is tributed, you actually get the ability to add a light fairy monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really awesome effect to be able to use to be able to search out cards like Diviner or Chojuro from your deck to your hand. We then play a single copy of Cyber Angel Natasha. Natasha is really good because of its graveyard ability. Now, this card has the ability, if this card's in the graveyard, you can banish one of their Cyber Angel monster from your grave, target a monster opponent controls, and special summon this card, and if you do, take control of that monster, which is a really good effect. I love that about this card. It's so helpful in this particular build, and this card also helps you gain life points, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of Herald of Perfection. Herald of Perfection is just really good in this deck right now, and I absolutely love this card in this build, because this card is multiple negates by just using fairies from your hand, and it's a really good 1-of in the build that you can search it and its ritual spell off your copy of your Trillion Hands effect. We then play a single copy of Magician of Black Chaos Max. This card is basically like Azathoth, which is insane. I love this card. It's so powerful because it has the ability to contribute one monster, which can be itself, and your opponent cannot activate monster effects this turn. It's very easy to put this card on the field during your opponent's turn, which is really good about this card, and it's a really awesome one-of in this build. We then play a single copy of Drytron Meteonis. Drytron Meteonis is really good as a one-up because this card is a 4,000 attack point monster, and it's also a machine ritual monster, which is really cool about this deck, and I love this card because it's just so big. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is a definite one of the deck. It just is a really good card to get the exact Drytron card you need in the graveyard. We then play a single copy of Drytron Fafnir. Drytron Fafnir is great because when this card is activated, you can add a Drytron spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is a really good effect to be able to search out cards like Meteonis Drytron, or even search out Drytron Nova directly from your deck to your hand off this card. I feel like one is totally fine in this deck. We then play a single copy of Dawn of the Herald. Dawn of the Herald is how we actually summon out our copy of Herald of Perfection. It's just a really good one-of in this build, so we can actually summon out our copy of Herald of Perfection. We then play a single copy of Meteonis Drytron. Meteonis Drytron is just a great ritual spell that we can search out of the deck extremely easily, so we can ritual summon some insane cards. We then play 3 copies of Preparation of Rites. Preparation of Rites is really good because it searches out our copies of our Bentons or any level 7 or lower ritual monster from our deck to our hand. Then if we do have a ritual spell in the graveyard, we can actually add that card back, which is really good. We then play 3 copies of Cyber Emergency. This card is great because it searches out any of our Drytron monsters from our deck to our hand, which is really good. I love that about this card, and it's really good as a 3-of in the deck. It's basically the Rhoda of the deck. We then play 3 copies of Drytron Nova. I really like 3 copies of this card in the deck. It's really good because this card is almost like a quick launch that lets you special summon a Drytron monster from your deck, but destroy it during the end phase, which is a really good effect to be able to use, but you can only activate 1 of this card per turn, and you cannot special summon monsters except monsters that cannot be normal summoner set the turn you activate this card effect, which is totally fine because all your Drytron monsters share that effect as well, but it's a really good effect just to get one of your Drytrons on the field. We then play 3 copies of Triple Tactical Talents. This card is just insane right now because it's just a really good card. Because if your opponent activates a monster effect during your main phase, you can draw 2, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at your opponent's hand and basically shuffle that card back, 1 card from their hand back in the deck, which is just super good. This card is insane right now and is really good in the Kashtira matchup. I love this card right now because it's just basically Pot of Greed in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Book of Moon. Book of Moon is just really good right now at flipping your opponent's monsters face down, especially flipping cards like a Rise Heart face down that we cannot leave face up because we do not want our Drytron monsters to be banished because they're basically just gone if they're banished. So this card is really good at flipping a Rise Heart face down so we don't have to deal with that card, especially if you're going against like a Rise Heart pass or just going into the Kashtira matchup. But this card is really good also at flipping big boss monsters face down so we can deal them with other cards later on when we need to. But this card is just really good overall in this deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Drytron Mu Beta Fafnir. I feel like 2 is the perfect number for this card. You don't really need any more than 2 copies of this card, but it's a really insane card that's just really good in this deck. That when you ritual summon, you can also detach a material from this card to be able to ritual summon that monster, which is really good and really awesome for this card. And if this card is XZ summon, you can also send 1 Drytron card from your deck to the graveyard, and when your opponent activates a spell or trap while you control a machine ritual monster, quick effect, you can detach a material from this card and negate the activation to destroy that card, which is insanely powerful. I feel like 2 is totally fine for the deck. 3 is just a little too much. We then play a single copy of the Bird. Bird is really good to be able to make your copy of your Zeus and just really good in the deck overall. We play a single copy of Beatrice. This card is insane in the deck because this card is walking Foolish Burial. It's very easy to put on your side of the field because we play a lot of level 6s in this deck. We then play a single copy of Downer Magician. Downer Magician is very easy to put on your side of the field on top of your copy of Mu Beta Fafnir, or usually you're going to put it on top of the Bird, which is really good to be able to make your one of Zeus. Zeus is just really good in the deck to be able to use as a board wipe in this build. We then play a single copy of Herald of the Arclight. If this card does touch the graveyard, you can actually use this card to be able to search out a ritual monster or ritual spell, which is a great combo piece to combo with your copy of Diviner, because when you normal summon Diviner, you can send this card to the graveyard. We then play a single copy of Elder Entityness. This is also a Diviner target you're going to be sending to the graveyard to be able to pop a card on the field. These two are just depending on the situation, if you need the search or you need the pop. We then play a single copy of Boral Sword. Boral Sword just ends games and is just really good in this build. I love Boral Sword in the deck because it helps you just close out games so easily. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn. Nightmare Unicorn spins stuff, which is really nice. We then play 2 copies of Dynamondo. Dynamondo is probably the most important card in the entire extra deck. This card is so good. It takes 2 monsters, including a ritual monster, to make this card. And if this card is special summon, you can target 1 card on the field and a ritual monster in the graveyard and shuffle both into the deck, which is really cool. And during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can tribute this card and then target a ritual monster in the graveyard and either add it to your hand or special summon it, which can be your copy of your Magician of Black Chaos Max, to be able to use it during your opponent's turn to be able to turn their entire turn off, which is insane. I love that about this card. And this card basically makes the deck. You always end with this card to be able to use your copy of your Magician of Black Chaos Max, which is just such a cool effect to be able to use in the deck and just really nostalgic to use that card. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Phoenix. This card pops spells and traps, which is really cool. 1 copy of IP Masquerena. IP is just really good at being able to make your copy of Unicorn during the opponent's turn. And finally, a single copy of Linkuriboh. Linkuriboh is just great in the deck to be able to use to be able to prevent yourself from getting destroyed by a monster that's really strong and dropping that monster down to 0. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have not played Drytron, you definitely should give this deck a try because it's just really awesome. It's super fun to be able to play. It's extremely powerful right now, and it's one of the best ritual decks ever created. It's just really insane, especially with the amount of different ritual monsters you can actually play in this deck. So anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell near so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.